So I love this little octave flip in this Zach Bryan Pink Skies song. Starts at about 109, just the line before the flip. This is a cool loop. Be a great practice loop. Move the keys, work the techniques. Your funeral was beautiful. I bet God heard you coming. Your funeral was beautiful. I bet God heard you coming. A lot you can play with there. Even the bottom. Your funeral was beautiful. Ah, ah, ah. He's got this nice amount of catch in that. If he didn't, funeral was beautiful. Ah, ah, ah. The key there is to get good at this without the air. Ah, 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 your funeral was beautiful. Your funeral, and then he lets that go. Your funeral was beautiful. Another proof. All roads point this way in singing. Ah, ah, ah. It's all around that anchor point that we talk about so much in here. And then you really want that. Even there. I bet God heard you coming. Ah, you want to be great at that. I bet God heard you coming. Because these are first cousins. You got to fire into this belt. It's not a push, it's an intention. I bet God heard you coming. And then he has his own things with that little, he does some shapes. I bet God heard you come in. I bet God heard you in the shaping, but the shaping's around this genie in the bottle that's the same whether I'm doing the shaping or not. And I bet God heard you come in. And there's a million and one things. You could mix that. I bet God heard you come in. I bet God heard you come in. Really a lot of cool things you could do with all these techniques. What I think is a really good idea for something like this is work it. I bet God heard you coming. Your funeral was beautiful. I bet God heard you coming. Your funeral was beautiful. I bet God heard you coming. I bet God heard you coming. Your funeral. Well, that's because that bottom is even more bottomy. Ah, your funeral was beautiful. You gotta have this sense of direction. When you do an octave flip like this, it's that thing we talk about so much in here, reverse resonance. The bottom, ah, 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 your funeral. It's not up here. We're getting frequencies from here, but it's not a forward move. It's a back at the top of the mouth. That's where the anchor is. That's where the opening into the nasal passage, where we get this little ah, ah, ah. We get the buzzy tone. It opens there. Ah, your funeral was beautiful. You can play with all the things we talked about. Ah, your funeral was beautiful. Kind of add that energy. I bet God, if I don't do that, even here, it isn't that high, but I bet God heard you coming. I bet God, all kinds of bad things could happen. I bet God, I've got to be even more. I've got to direct myself back and down for. I bet God heard you coming. It's a good place to overdo that. Now I bet God heard you coming. I bet God heard you coming. Because when I'm there, I can start letting go of some of the pulls. I bet God heard you coming. Make this sound any way I want. Work it up. It's beautiful. God heard you coming. Your funeral was beautiful. I bet God heard you coming. I bet God, like, had the confidence to start here. Breath follows. I'm in position before anything happens. Then you fire into this. I bet God heard you coming. And if I'm singing this and as I'm learning this, and I'm in a belt and it's too hard, I bet God heard you coming. That's what'll happen if you don't know how to take that. I bet God, this just because you can doesn't mean you should kind of belt. I bet God, I bet God, I bet God, I bet God, I bet God. I'm going more and more. I bet God heard you coming. Soften the belt by position. Know how to pull it back and down. Well, I bet God heard you coming, and you want to brighten it back up. I bet God heard you. I bet God heard you coming. Just because I'm using these doesn't mean I'm in the face. It means I'm opening up and I'm accessing this. This is called tone marriage. This is multiple direction. I'm directing myself back and down from the anchor. I bet God heard you coming, and I'm attaching these frequencies. I bet God heard you coming. I bet God heard you coming, and I can be as bright as I bet God heard you coming. I bet God heard you coming. I can add a shape if I want. All working around that. It's beautiful. I bet God heard you coming, which is really how to learn this stuff. When you're in a new key, touch it first, be confident in it. You don't want to be, what's the note? What are the notes? And trying to fire into that at the same time. So be confident. I bet God heard you coming. I bet God heard you coming. I bet God heard you coming. Being able to juxtapose those two things all the time. The tiniest head voice, bullseye head voice, and then your first level belt into the more energetic belts. All those things, which I talk about a lot of different ways with a lot of different lessons and online programs. Back to his key. I bet God heard you coming. Funeral, even low. I bet God heard you come. Your funeral, your funeral, your funeral was beautiful. I'm going to loop that until I can get all the things locked up that I want. Start there with the lightest thing you can do. Your funeral was beautiful. Your funeral was beautiful. Even that change right there, going from your funeral was beautiful. There's nothing wrong with this. Your funeral was beautiful. But if we can hear this dimension, your funeral was beautiful, by starting to attach, all roads point this way, starting to attach some of these frequencies to that, we're going to start getting the key to what great singers know and do. And it also costs energy, and energy is good. It's not really any louder, but it's more energetic. Your funeral was beautiful. Your funeral was beautiful. I bet God heard you coming. I bet God heard you coming. There's my first belt. I bet God heard you coming. There's a place for everything, as I like to say. It's called college. I like that joke. I bet God heard you coming. There's a place for that. But then if I know how to attach, I bet God heard you coming. I bet God heard you coming. I bet God heard you coming. All these energies to that. I'm starting to get into a place where I don't need to do a lot of overacting because the energy does the work for me. And then if you're going to sing rock, well, you take something like this and you go, well, let's just keep going, because that top note there is an E, which is hard to do great, but it's not that high for... was beautiful. I bet God heard you coming. Your funeral was beautiful. I bet God heard you coming. Funeral was beautiful. I bet God heard you coming. Your funeral was beautiful. I bet God heard you coming. What did we get there? We got an F. I like the F sharps. I bet God heard you coming. Funeral was beautiful. I bet God heard you coming. Funeral was beautiful. I bet God heard you coming. Just a little mix in that. I bet God heard you coming. And I probably would use that because I don't want this to be so overwhelming. But if I want to keep working on getting rid of that little mix, I bet God, all roads point this way. I bet God heard you coming. Get into a full belt, and then how can I soften that? I bet God heard you coming. Touch and position. I sit there and loop something like that for several passes. And I would do that in a warm-up so that I get warm to sing the stuff I'm going to sing. Warm up to the level you're going to sing. I bet God heard you coming. Your funeral was beautiful. I bet God heard you coming. I'd be better off standing for this, but if you see me sitting, I'm going to be doing all these moves that I would be emulating standing. I'm going to push myself up from my sit bones, pull myself up from the back of the head. I bet God heard you coming. I bet God heard you coming. And that's starting to get, hard for me because I don't have a tenor voice. I have a barytenor, and so I have to work hard to get those notes. But that's how you turn something that's kind of cool into a little workout and learn something from it. All right. See you next time.